Hello and welcome to another episode of the Nitro RX podcast. We are back again for a bonus episode because we're interviewing another driver. More on that in a little bit. But I am Team Albers Daily, and I am joined, as always, by my brilliant co-host, Nabila and Thiemo. How are you?
I am doing well. How about yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. I'm excited to get into this bonus episode where we are chatting with the one and only Timmy Hansen. Should be an exciting chat, don't you think?
Absolutely. I'm very excited. Should we get cracking?
Let's do it.
We're back for a bonus episode because we're joined by a very special guest, former Nitro RX, current World Rallycross and Extreme E driver, Timmy Hansen. Welcome to the podcast, Timmy. How are you doing?
Thank you very much. I'm doing well, thank you.
Glad to hear it. So we're just going to dive straight in. So I want to know, coming from a racing family, was it always going to be off-road racing for you, or were you ever interested in getting into something else like single seaters?
Yeah, I started off in go-karting when I was a kid. I guess it's kind of natural, doing some kind of motorsport, with growing up in the workshop and everything. We had all kinds of toys back home. But yeah, I started to compete in go-karting when I was a kid. Really enjoyed it. Spent a few years in karting before. Yeah, then back then I didn't want to do rallycross as my parents was doing. So I was dreaming about Formula One. That was my big goal. I tried to get there. I raced in single seaters for a few years against quite a few of the guys who are in Formula One today, but didn't make it all the way there. And the spot opened up in our team. One of the drivers was ill, and I was able to try one of our rallycross supercars, and went to Finland. Did my first ever race there. It was pouring down with rain. I was so bad on the dirt, like I could not go sideways with the car, but I was quite fast on the tarmac. And finally, I ended fifth in the race, side by side with Tanner Faust. It was a good premiere, and from then, I realized that wow, these cars are insane, and the racing is crazy, and this is what I want to do. So I kind of got then what my parents knew all along, that gravel's the place to be. And then the rest is history, I guess, from when I started in rallycross.
That's super cool. Do you feel like you had to learn a lot more from switching between the tarmac? Obviously, you said you did a lot of that, to the gravel. Was it you said you struggled to start out with it, but was it really difficult to then learn? Or do you think having a strong basis with racing allowed you to kind of move between the two a little bit more easy?
I think both, yes. I was in single seaters, you don't have a lot of contact. Same in go-karting, you don't have contact. So when I jumped into rallycross, that was horrible. I never thought that anybody could race like that. I was furious at everyone who was around me. They gave me a tap and I thought it was the end of the world. So I definitely had a hard time learning how to deal with that. But I think I was kind of fast. Speed was always, somewhat natural. How to drive on the tarmac and how to go fast with the car. For some reason, that came kind of natural. But going sideways, handling kind of, the aggressive part of rallycross, that was a huge difficulty in the beginning. But, something that I really had to make a huge effort to learn how to do.
Before I get to my question, though, I want to just go back slightly and just ask you, saying you've raced a few people who are currently in F1. Which names are we dropping here?
Well, it's quite a few. I was back in karting. I was teammates with Kevin Magnussen. I raced a few years with Carlos Sainz. I know Max Verstappen, although we never raced together. But I guess that's through Red Bull, really. Who else do we got? Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon. I'm sure there's someone I'm forgetting also, but we were a bunch of kids back then, and all having the same dream and all kind of ending up on the same series. So I think we were all young aspiring racers, going hard against each other, all having big dreams, and a few of them made it, and now it's super cool to see them racing Formula One. They're doing so well. A few of my friends there, and I think I could have, if I got the chance, I could have made it, but honestly, I think that off-road racing is more for me. Like I am having more fun today than I was back in the the tarmac racing days. So I think things worked out perfectly for me too, and I can just enjoy the race on a Sunday afternoon watching Formula One, and then go and do all kinds of crazy adventures off road for myself. So
I'd have to agree with that, definitely.
Thank you.
And I think as well, saying about more fun, Nitro RX, how did you first hear about that, and what made you want to get involved?
I first heard about the Nitro World Games, as it was back then, when Travis put together the first tracks, like making the first event. And it was, I saw drawings of the track saying that there will be a tunnel, there will be a massive jump over the tunnel, and there will be a insanely huge jump over all of that, like 3 different lanes. And he was thinking so far out the box that I didn't think it was possible. But yeah, I thought it was cool going to America, doing my first race over there. And I will never forget when I went into the paddock the first time, and there in Salt Lake City, you come in and then you've got the gap jump on the left when you pull into the event site, and it looks so big. And I just thought, like, there is no chance in the world that I'm going over that. Like these cars are not made to fly. But Travis, he kind of proved us wrong, that these cars can fly and we can jump massively big. It's a special skill to jump a car that I didn't know back then, coming for the first time. So I got a huge amount of help from Travis, learning how to control the car in the air and how it will move around. But it's kind of a good story that with the jump, because during jump practice I made it once over the big jump, but then my second attempt I really jumped badly and I landed so heavily on the front, and I took too much air time, and I kind of came off the gas in the air, which is an absolute no-no. So yeah, I landed super hard on the nose, and we had traveled across the Atlantic with a few spare parts, one car, and we could repair it, but if I did that again, it will be weekend over. So from then on, we just said, like, yeah, we stick to the lower jump and we focus on the rest of the track. And the race was going super well for me. I think I won. Yeah, I don't know what, but I was in the front with the front guys, only doing the lower jump. But for the Sunday, come the finals, jokered early behind Ekstrom, who was leading the race, but hunted him down doing that big jump every lap. Finally getting ahead of him when he went into the Joker, and yeah, we won that race. So it's a very good memory for me.
I can imagine, and think the jumping as well comes in very handy for you with Extreme E these days as well, considering what some of the tracks are like there.
Yeah, but the jumps in Nitro Rallycross, they are just on another level. Like compared to anything else, like the air time that we get on some of the places, I think especially in Salt Lake, yeah, it's so cool. Like it's another level. Yeah.
Would you say that the jumps have been your biggest and favorite takeaway from Nitro as a whole? And doing obviously World Rallycross as well, is that the major difference between the two, or is there other differences between the track layouts?
Yeah, jumps are probably the biggest difference between World tracks and Nitro tracks, but there's also usually more in Nitro. And to begin with, I wasn't a big fan of the jumps. Like, I didn't think they really added anything apart from wheels not touching the ground. But racing on a lot of these tracks now, I realize how big of an overtaking possibility it is as soon as you get some jumps involved. Like, you can always risk it a bit more. You can go a bit further than the other one, and if there's a corner coming up, like there's just more action happening, in the air. Even though like you're not quite in control while you're in the air, it's just there's this risk reward. Of course, you don't want to over jump and damage the car, but you can always risk it if you really need to pass someone or do something. And the jumps in combination with these dirt corners that's been the secret recipe, I think, of Nitro, and that's why the racing is so cool.
So what have you made then of Nitro RX's essentially aggressive expansion into a globe-trotting motorsport? You were there at the very beginning when it was just one-off events, but it's just Absolutely. It's just done what exactly Nitro you'd expect it to, really. What have you made of it all?
Yeah, well, they've definitely, gone with the big ambitions that they've had for a long time. But in my own personal opinion, I kind of preferred when it was Nitro World Games and this massive one-off event. It was kind of this X Games feeling that or Olympics feeling that we would show up to this crazy race, and we would go against people from all over the world in rally cars, and the winner that day was Nitro World Games champion. I love those days. It was 2 years, first 2 years. But of course, I understand why people want more of this racing, and I see why people want to see the cars going, more times against each other. And also the teams, they got to have some kind of championship to sell to their sponsors to be able to run these expensive cars. So I totally understand why it's gone the way it went, but I did enjoy, that one of, special feeling that you get on an event like that. But yeah, hey, more is more sometimes as well, I guess.
Knowing Travis as well, I feel like you could probably work your way into getting another one-off event and still making it special as part of adjacent to the championship, maybe to get the best of both worlds. I wouldn't rule it out with him.
Yeah, but the problem now though is that we've got different cars in World and Nitro, and I love the championship. I love doing Nitro, but there's just no way for us to do the race like we used to do. So now it's kind of, Nitro's got their own regulation, World's got their own, and you can pick or choose whichever you prefer as as a race fan, but it's not as easy anymore to cross between the series, and you got to make like this full commitment to either if you want to do it. So, and now even at the end of the year, 2 of the races are clashing. So kind of not really. I would have loved to do a race this year, but it's now with only 2 rounds remaining and clashing with the World Championship, it's not going to happen. So, but I'm sure I'm going to come back to Nitro one day. I love the championship. I love the challenge. I love the atmosphere and like the American go big style. Like I've enjoyed that.
Is that a little hint that we might see a Hansen team on the grid of Nitro in the next few years?
And nothing's impossible, I guess, but is not on the table today. But me as a driver, I just want to race. I want to do everything. So if I get the question to come and race, if it's our own team or another team, like I would be all over it, and I would say yes. Nitro is like it's too good to say no to.
So leading in with that, obviously Nitro Rallycross, they've got a ton of other categories racing on the same weekends, and this format seems to really be agreeable with the fans right now. Should World Rallycross look at this to stay relevant? And do you think maybe Nitro surpassed World Rallycross in terms of entertainment, or do you think World Rallycross still has that hold?
No, I definitely think that Nitro has like opened doors into things that we thought was impossible, like building these crazy massive jumps, the way that we race on bank turns on gravel, the way that the tracks are built in Nitro is better. I think it's as easy as that. It's better. It's more challenging. But not like the World Championship has a few good things. The main thing being that if you win it, you're the world champion, and no further explanation needed. But Nitro, it is more of a show, and I think it's kind of representing Europe and America. That World Championship is very European. The rules are extremely predictable with the FIA, setting the rules early and allowing us to build the cars within that. I do like in the world that we can build our own cars. I think that's a benefit that we've got in the World Championship and developing and all that side of it. But the show, I think we've got something to learn from the Americans of how to put on a big show and just a good time for the fans.
Do you think World Rallycross will see Nitro this year and maybe try to make a few changes for their series next year, or as you say, the FIA is usually pretty stringent on what they do and they don't change too much going by other championships? Like, do you think they should?
I think there is absolutely no way that the FIA would allow like a 100-foot gap jump. There is a limit reached and crossed a long time ago. But I know that within the World Championship and new tracks being discussed, we are looking at what Nitro are doing and what kind of elements really work for bringing a better show and more entertainment, entertaining racing. It's kind of this when you get the outside line being faster than the inside line, then as if you're leading a race, there's no way for you to defend, because if you go defensive on the inside, someone will overtake you on the outside. And if you go on the outside, there's always a gap on the inside. So this creates like this very difficult kind of racing environment where it's always open for the guy chasing to make a move. And I think that is really the key part, allowing overtaking that rallycross should be. And I think like since Travis came with Nitro World Games, I think, was it 2018, the first year? He made Rallycross 2.0, and that's what everyone's trying to make still today.
I think it's super exciting. Going back to obviously this season, not sure if you've watched much of it.
Well, yeah, I have watched all of the events. I came even to visit in Lisbon because I was in the UK anyway, and I sure haven't missed them. So I followed, and of course, Andreas and Robin was like super impressive to start the year. But yet now last event, Travis was the one to beat. It felt to me like he was in his natural habitat once again, being able to go sideways and send it into these berms, and like he looked super quick. But I think most impressive probably Robin Larsson, the way that he's been consistent. He's won one event and he's always been up there. Like he's been strong every time. So I think until now he's probably the most impressive driver of the field so far.
Going off that then, for the future, who would you want from either World Rallycross or Extreme E to come over to Nitro and give it a go?
Oh wow! There's so many good racers. I think Nitro's done well in attracting like people from different disciplines. There are a couple guys that I race against like all the time. My brother and Johan Kristoffersson, for example, like they're always a hard battle when you go against them. But in Extreme E, we got Tanner Faust. I've raced mostly against him in Rallycross in Nitro, but now he's in Extreme E. I'm sure he would love to come back. Sebastian Loeb, I think he would enjoy that. Who else to say? I don't know.
Has Katie been asking you for the future?
Yeah, well, she did the buggies in, where was that? Last year, one event last year. So she have tried it, the jumps and stuff, and I know that she loved it. And she's like a rallycross girl now, not a rally girl anymore.
That's perfect. Then one question we always like to ask everyone we chat to: can you describe Nitro RX for us in 3 words?
Describe Nitro RX in 3 words. It's got to be fast flying car, maybe.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, not had that one. I like that really? Though. Yeah,
got Back to the Future vibes.
Nicely. Yeah.
I'll trademark it.
So I come from a rally background myself, and one of the questions I always like to ask, and I'm always curious to know, is if you could do any rally stage in any rally car from history, which would you choose and why? It can also be an entire event.
Well, I think the most intimidating rally it must be Finland, like with those high-speed jumps and to pick one car, that's a harder one because there's been a lot of good ones. I went in the passenger seat with Seb in the C3 one time and got to kind of feel, how impressive a WRC car is. But I must say, probably the cars of today that are so insanely fast, probably the Toyota of this year. That would probably be my choice. It's such a good car, and cars today are crazy fast. So to do that on a rally like Finland, it would be scary. I would be way off the pace of those guys, but it would be an adventure, wouldn't it?
Would you say so? Toyota and Finland seem to be everybody's top choice. But are you going to go for the hybrid era this time, or are you going to stick with the era just before?
Well, I've spoken a bit to a couple of the guys, who do it now, and spoke about the hybrid and how it works, and it seems to be a small difference, but not a major change. So honestly, I don't mind. I could pick the hybrid probably. It got some extra power a few times, probably a bit heavier, but yeah, I don't know. It seems like WRC is still WRC, even though they've got some electric power as well now.
Yeah, let's be real. With the number of championships you've done, I don't put it past you.
Perfect. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today, and we want to thank you very much for your time, and hopefully we get to see you back in Nitro RX sometime in the not too distant future.
I hope so. That will be fantastic. Thanks for chatting to me, and sorry to everyone who had to listen to this for a while. Me talking some bullshit, but sorry about that.
That was an awesome episode today, Thiemo. How did you find speaking with Timmy?
Yeah, it was great fun. It was nice to see someone who was there at the very beginning of Nitro RX, and interesting that he preferred it as a one-off kind of an event rather than the global kind of phenomenon that it's turned into. And I can kind of see why there is that appeal to it, but it's just, you don't normally get that because normally you have drivers clamoring for more of this kind of thing. So it's interesting to get that switch for a change. What about yourself?
Absolutely. I think I'm under the same impression. Like, it was funny him saying, oh, I liked the one-off events, whereas other drivers we've been talking to, they're super excited to get stuck into a whole season. But I guess what I didn't know, and what he mentioned, was the ease of being able to bring the cars from World Rallycross to Nitro last year was a lot easier. But obviously with the Group E switching to electric, it's made it a lot more difficult. But with how much the Hansen team does, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw an electric car from them in the next few years.
No, me neither. And it kind of shows that whilst Nitro was kind of born out of a love for World Rallycross and inspired by it, it's very much heading in its own direction now. And when you said talking about the FIA, kind of made me think of Nitro being that mischievous little brother that you have in the family, and it's just going off and doing all this cool stuff, and you're just there kind of tutting at it in the corner. Like, what are you up to?
Yeah, but I think it's brought so much more excitement, and I think if it continues the way it's doing, it might end up being something that the FIA need to look into. They need to make it a little bit more exciting. I mean, Timmy didn't touch on too much the excitement of World Rallycross, but he was leaning towards how much of a spectacle Nitro was. So it will be intriguing to see how the next few years play out with FIA World Rallycross.
Definitely. And if we can get someone like Katie Munnings or Sebastian Loeb or Tanner Faust back in there as well, to even if it's just for a one-off event like we had with Christopherson earlier in the year, then I think that's going to be an even bigger wake-up call for everyone to either pay more attention to it or to take some inspiration from it.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to see Sebastian Loeb. I think he'd be awesome.
I wish we'd asked about if what that was like for him to sit in the passenger seat with Sebastian Loeb, because I can imagine even for someone as well-rounded as driving-wise as Timmy, that would have been quite an experience.
Yeah, was that Ogier or Loeb?
I thought that was Loeb, but I may have to go back and re-watch our interview.
I think so too, because if it was in the C3, it potentially could have also been Ogier, because you know what, the Sebs did everything their whole career. So
that's true.
So yeah, what an exciting chat. And that jump, because I don't think anyone's ever portrayed how much that jump is and how much that takes, and sitting there going, I took my foot off the throttle. I'm sat there going, no,
I saw
you don't
your
ever
face.
take your foot off the throttle. No, that's not okay.
Well, I want to use that for the social account and have a meme for that, I think.
Thank you so much to Timmy for joining us, and hopefully we get to see him back in the world of Nitro Rallycross very soon.
In the meantime, if you like us and you want to see more of us from other areas of motorsport world, then Nabila, where can people find you?
I can be found on Instagram and TikTok, and also on our page, the Nitro RX podcast.
Perfect. As for myself, I have my motorsport interview series on the Curbs, where Timmy is actually one of the first people on there. If you scroll all the way back to the very beginning, I have a joint interview with him and Katie Munnings when they were about to start off in Extreme E. So it's quite fun to get to do that for a second time with him now. But apart from that, I'm over on the Undercut podcast where I chat about F1 and I do write some articles for Is It Fast 2. And I'm also on Instagram and I'll stick all of the details for both of us in the description for this episode. We'll be back soon with another episode, quite possibly reviewing the next round of Nitro RX. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And in the meantime, thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.